Welcome back to Pokemon Episode Summaries. Today, I'll be doing episode 153, the Totodile Duel. The episode begins with Ash and the gang by a river, fishing, looking for Pokemon, along with Pikachu and Togepi fishing as well. Ash complains about how boring fishing was, which obviously pisses Misty off, as fishing was her fucking hobby. And Brock suggests that the only reason why it was boring was because they weren't getting any fucking bites, adding that they were probably using the wrong type of bait. Misty and Ash, however, both suspect that the reasoning for the lack of bites was due to them being too loud, and immediately blame each other for being the main source of noise, which causes a huge argument. Ironically, just making the area louder. It appeared that the noise level didn't matter though, as Misty then got a bite, and she proceeded to reel it in. Unfortunately though, all that was on the other end was a tea kettle, causing Brock to laugh and joke that Misty should try fishing for a coffee maker next. This comment by Brock led Misty to get even more pissed off, as a strange Pokemon watched from the bushes. To prove to Brock and Ash that she could in fact actually catch some water Pokemon, she proceeded to pull out her special lure that was a miniature version of her, believing it would give her luck. As she cast the lure into the water, she then went into a long rant about how she had been determined to catch and learn about every single water Pokemon since she was a little girl, due to always being surrounded by them because of her sister's business and finding them extremely cute. Thankfully for Ash and Brock, Misty's annoying-ass water Pokemon glazing session was cut off when the Pokemon from earlier hopped out of the water, revealing itself, and did a little dance on a rock. Ash immediately used his Pokedex on the Pokemon, and it informed him that it was a Totodile, which he should have already knew, as, they've encountered one before. Misty didn't even need the Pokedex's information to know that she absolutely adored the Totodile, but after learning even more about it, she then decided that she was going to catch it, therefore adding to her water Pokemon collection and becoming one step further to her goal of catching every water Pokemon. However, Ash, simply being Ash though, wanted to catch the Totodile as well, even though he wasn't a strictly water-type trainer, and went to go throw his Pokeball to catch it. Before Ash could throw his Pokeball though, Misty then threw out her lure, with the intent to preoccupy the Totodile first before she caught it, and this works as Totodile proceeds to bite down on the lure. Ash complains how this wasn't a fair situation because he didn't have any bait to use on Totodile, but this bait that Misty had used proved out to be useless anyways, as Totodile immediately spit it out. This led Ash to immediately laugh at Misty's misfortune, now no longer being worried about their chances being unfair, as he had Pikachu use Thunderbolt on the Totodile, acting as his own sort of bait in a way, as this weakened the Totodile enough so that it was stunned and unable to move, so Ash took the opportunity to throw a Pokeball, and he had seemingly successfully caught it. This led Misty to become the mad one, as she accused Ash of being unfair, stating that Pikachu's Thunderbolt was way more enticing of a bait than just her lure, but Ash argued back that he was just responding to Misty's actions, so it was her fault. Misty then argued that since they were fishing, Ash should have only used a lure to catch Totodile, not use his Pokemon's attacks, but Misty's rebuttal was cut off, as they then noticed that Totodile was in fact not caught and had hopped out of the Pokeball, now standing on the ground beside them, continuing to dance around just like it did on the rock. Ash got pissed at Totodile's escape and immediately ordered Pikachu to Thundershock the Totodile yet again, but right before Pikachu could do this, Misty then jumped in, throwing her own Pokeball, shoving Ash down to the ground in the process. All Misty's throw did, though, was further piss off the Totodile, who did not want to be captured, so he used a water gun on Misty and Ash, sending them flying into the grass, along with Brock, Pikachu, and Togepi, before the Pokeball could make contact, taking the opportunity to escape back into the river. So, when Ash and the gang emerged from the grass, they noticed that Totodile has disappeared. Ash and Misty decide to both go looking for the Totodile since they both still wanted to catch it, and instruct Brock to stay behind and watch over their things and Togepi. But Brock rebuttals that he should come too, as Ash and Misty would likely get into a fight if they were just by themselves, especially if one of them caught the Totodile and the other one didn't, stating that they would need a referee like him to break up the fight. As Ash and the gang headed off into the nearby woods to look for Totodile, unbeknownst to them that the Totodile was simply hiding in the water. And now, with Ash and the gang gone, Totodile took the opportunity to jump out of the water and go search for some food, because he was hungry as fuck. However, he then heard some noises in the distance and ran off to go check them out, hoping that food would be at his destination. It was then revealed that these noises that Totodile heard were being caused by none other than Team Rocket. Jesse and James were enjoying themselves eating some rice balls, but Meowth couldn't bring himself to enjoy anything, as he was too stressed about how Giovanni would react if he found out that Team Rocket still hadn't caught any Pokemon yet, particularly worried that Giovanni would kick them off of Team Rocket. Jesse and James tried their best to cheer up Meowth simply by dancing and reciting a part of their motto, but when this doesn't work, Jesse then tries offering Meowth a rice ball, as food always seemed to cheer him up. However, Wobbuffet then escaped at this point, which distracted Jesse enough for Totodile to reveal himself out of the bushes and chomp on Jesse's hand that had the rice ball in it. James and Meowth are instantly happy to see the Totodile, Meowth especially, since now they would have a Pokemon that they could take to Giovanni. However, Jessie was too preoccupied to experience the same happiness, as she struggled to get her hand free from the Totodile and also recall her annoying Wobbuffet back into its Pokeball at the same time. Much to Jessie's surprise though, the Totodile then willingly let go of her arm after it had eaten the rice ball and proceeded to eat the rest of the rice balls that were on the ground. Team Rocket were all fuming now, so they wasted no time trying to capture the Totodile as they all lunged for it. However, Totodile countered by using a huge water gun, sending them blasting off. Ash had sent Pikachu off to look for the Totodile on its own, and Pikachu managed to spot Totodile right as it blasted Team Rocket off. So, it immediately ran to alert Ash and Misty, which soon brought Ash and Misty to the Totodile's location. Ash was about to throw his regular Pokeball, but then he noticed Misty pull out the Lure Ball that Kurt had gave her, stating that she was going to use it since Lure Balls increased your chances of catching water Pokemon. This prompted Ash to switch out his regular Pokeball for his Lure Ball, and this pisses Misty off, who accuses Ash of blatantly copying her. Ash simply retorted that Misty shouldn't have reminded him of the Lure Ball's capabilities, and as their argument proceeded to devolve into a whole bunch of nonsense, this just caused the Totodile to laugh with joy. With the Totodile distracted, Ash and Misty finally got their act together and both threw their Pokeballs, and they actually hit Totodile at the exact same time, regardless of the Totodile's attempt to jump away. The Pokeballs then land behind a bush, along with Totodile, who goes flying before he was captured. He was captured in one of the balls, though, but due to the balls landing behind the bush, Ash and Misty weren't able to tell which Pokeball Totodile successfully was caught in. Essentially, they knew which Pokeball it was in, but they didn't know which Pokeball was each of theirs, if that made sense. It certainly didn't help that both of their Lure Balls were absolutely identical, so they had no way of telling which ball was which. They both argue that the Pokeball containing the Totodile was theirs, and begin having a tug-of-war for the Pokeball, with each of them not having any definitive proof as to who actually caught it. This leads Brock to step in and grab the Pokeball from both their hands, breaking up the argument. He stated the fact that he knew they would need a referee to settle their arguing, and suggested that in order to settle who would get Totodile's Pokeball, they had a Pokemon battle, therefore letting the strongest of the two of them be the one to get the Totodile as a reward. Both Ash and Misty agreed to this, with Ash suggesting that the battle should be a 3-on-3 battle, so it could act as almost like a gym battle, so Ash could prove that he could have beat Misty after all, and gotten her badge back in Kanto genuinely. Misty agrees, and Ash obviously sends out his Pikachu due to believing that Misty would use her water Pokemon, but this just makes Misty laugh as she reveals that she had anticipated this and had a secret weapon, as she sent out none other than her Togepi to battle, being her only non-water Pokemon. Pikachu was initially prepared to battle and kick some water type's ass, but now seeing that he had to fight one of his best friends, Togepi, he immediately hesitated. Misty saw Pikachu's hesitation and decided to use it to her advantage, as she told Togepi to go up and hug Pikachu, seemingly to comfort him. However, this was actually so Togepi could get up close enough to Pikachu and use Charm, which made Pikachu temporarily become enamored by Togepi and therefore not want to attack it, so it ran away into a nearby bush, meaning that it had just forfeited, so Misty won the first battle, officially being declared by Brock. Misty hugged her Togepi, thanking it for helping despite almost never battling, as Ash sent out his Chikorita, believing it to be his next best option, since Chikorita was a grass type which was also strong against water types. Misty then decided to send out her Staryu in an attempt to show Ash that type matchups didn't necessarily mean everything, and that overall battle experience mattered a lot too, which was something that Staryu had more of than Chikorita. Ash obviously knew this already, but he also knew that there'd be no harm in fucking using a Pokemon that had the type advantage, so he did, as he commanded Chikorita to use Razor Leaf, only for Staryu to dodge it and then follow up with Swift. Ash, believing that maybe he should try a move that didn't have a type advantage, tried to go in with a tackle, and it was successful, but Staryu countered with a water gun. This sent Chikorita flying back, but Chikorita was able to dig into the ground with its heels to avoid falling over, leading Ash to go back to his regular strategy and have Chikorita use Vine Whip. However, Staryu was able to dodge yet again and try and go in for a tackle of its own. Chikorita then jumped over the tackle though, and proceeded to attack Staryu from behind, entangling it in the vines. It then used the vines to slam Staryu into the ground, causing its central gem to begin to flicker, signifying that it was out of energy, leading Brock to call that Ash had won the second battle. It was now one victory each, heading into the third battle, and at the last minute, Brock suggested that Ash and Misty change the rules from a 3-on-3 to a best of 3, which Ash and Misty agreed to, as they liked the extra tension that it provided, as this meant that this upcoming battle would be the last one no matter what. Both Ash and Misty were determined to win. Misty wanted to prove that she could command water Pokemon extremely well, and Ash wanted to prove that he could have beat Misty in their gym battle. The final match then began, with Ash sending out Bulbasaur and Misty sending out Poliwag, with Poliwag immediately going for Double Slap and Bulbasaur immediately going for Vine Whip. Just as they were about to collide though, we then cut to Team Rocket, who had been blasted off onto a log that was in the water, and they were now drifting downstream. James and Jesse were very much hoping that they would not encounter the Totodile in the water again, but James reminded them that they needed a Pokemon for their boss, so he would be willing to take the risk of getting injured again if it meant that he could capture the Totodile. Right as Meowth was explaining his new plan to capture the Totodile though, the log then crashed into a nearby boulder. After landing in the water and floating downstream a little more, Team Rocket then spotted Ash and Misty on shore having their battle. This leads Team Rocket to abandon the Totodile catching idea, instead deciding to capture Ash and Misty's Pokemon after they had been weakened from the battle, seeing it as an easier way to please Giovanni. Meanwhile, the battle was continuing, with both Poliwag's Double Slap and Bulbasaur's Vine Whip being countered by each other, leading Bulbasaur to go in for a Razor Leaf, but Poliwag's Water Gun was able to break through all of the Razor Leaves, which sent the Water Gun flying at Bulbasaur, forcing him to have to dodge it. Bulbasaur managed to go in for another Razor Leaf though, and this one managed to directly hit Poliwag, essentially knocking it out at this point. Poliwag is so down that Ash is about to officially be declared the winner by Brock. However, in a Deus Ex Machina moment, Poliwag then evolves into Poliwhirl, much to Misty's delight, as she thought Poliwhirl was one of the best water Pokemon. Ash immediately uses his Pokedex to find out information on Poliwhirl to try and come up with a counter, and eventually decides that a tackle would be his best bet, as it would be good to start off with a lighter attack, as he didn't know Poliwhirl's full capabilities. However, Bulbasaur's tackle is countered by Poliwhirl's Body Slam, but thankfully, Bulbasaur is able to escape by using a Razor Leaf to push Poliwhirl off of him. However, the Body Slam left him severely injured to the point where he was almost collapsing, so Ash had to make sure that Bulbasaur could even continue battling. Bulbasaur, being the champ that he was though, assured Ash that he could keep going, leading Ash to tell him to start charging up a Solar Beam. Misty knew that Solar Beam would take a long time to charge, so she took the opportunity to have her Poliwhirl use Bubble. This was able to do even more damage to Bulbasaur, but it wasn't knocked out before its Solar Beam could be charged up, so it fired the Solar Beam directly at Poliwhirl, knocking it out and giving Ash the win, as Ash held up Bulbasaur in gratitude, and Misty comforted her Poliwhirl. Damn, I can't believe Poliwhirl actually lost its first battle. With Ash winning, Brock officially gives the Lure Ball to him, meaning that Ash officially had a Totodile now. Before Ash could do his usual celebration though, Team Rocket then showed up. Although they were in disguises, and didn't initially reveal themselves as Team Rocket. They instead tried to claim that they were from the Pokemon Battlers Ladies Auxiliary, which was essentially an organization that they claimed was like a Pokemon fan club full of rich ladies. However, Team Rocket's disguise is soon uncovered as Wobbuffet then pops out of Jessie's Pokeball, causing her to get mad and scream at it, which revealed her true voice, confirming to Ash and the gang that they were actually Team Rocket. Knowing that their disguises were fucked, they proceeded to throw them off and do their regular motto, informing Ash and the gang of their plan to steal Pikachu and all of Ash and Misty's other Pokemon. Ash then sends out his Totodile though, much to Team Rocket's dismay, as they recognized it, and Totodile proceeds to bite Jessie just like it had before, but this time on the hair instead of her hand, which gave her a terrible haircut, which obviously pissed her the fuck off, as she valued beauty. She sends out Arbok as revenge, and tells James to send out his Weezing as well. However, when Arbok slithers over to Totodile to attack, Totodile bites its tail, and swings it around, knocking it into Meowth in the process, knocking them both out. James then has Weezing use Sludge, but Totodile uses its dancing abilities, as it loved to dance so much, to avoid the attack, and then goes up to Weezing and scratches it, which was somehow a big enough scratch to send Weezing flying back into the rest of Team Rocket. With all of Team Rocket down, Totodile then finishes them off with a water gun, sending them blasting off, as he happily goes over to Pikachu and Bulbasaur and dances in front of them. As Ash jumps up in celebration at his new Pokemon's victory, leading Brock to comment on how Totodile seemed as excited about winning as Ash did, and was probably as hyper and energetic. Ash then tries to get Misty riled up about how he caught Totodile and she didn't, but Misty reveals that she didn't fucking care at this point because she had Poliwhirl, stating that Poliwhirl would at least listen to her, unlike Totodile, which seemed too hyper and impulsive, stating that that meant that Totodile was a better fit for Ash anyways. The episode then ends as Misty celebrates over having a new team member of her own, being Poliwhirl, and Ash celebrates over having a new team member as well, Totodile. Yeah, let's go.